with managed IT solutions and mid-zane. One of these days I'll remember to reverse myself. It is. One day soon, I hope. Anyhow, it is Tuesday, March 31st. So it is the last day of March. Happy spring. Happy Easter soon. Good Friday to those who celebrate. As well as Passover, which I think starts this evening from what I've been told. So today is Tuesday, so it means it's time for a Tech Talk Tuesday as opposed to a TikTok Tuesday. I talk too quickly, I guess. And so this week, a couple of things going on in the world in general. Well, there's a lot of things going on in the world in general. But specifically what I wanted to talk about is some of the things that we've noticed over the past couple of days, past week or two. And it's kind of the hidden costs of technology that are about to hit, right, the market. It's related to regulation, hardware constraints, and control. That's where you're seeing these prices, right? So if you feel like your IT costs have been creeping up, yeah, you're not mistaken. You're correct. It has been going up. It's not your imagination. There's real forces pushing those costs higher right now. And most businesses don't get to see it, or they might not understand why. So that's why we're going to go over some of this today. Make sure that you're a more informed consumer, even though you're a business, you're technically still a consumer. And I want to talk about three of them. So it's going to relate to hardware costs, regulations, and the growing loss of control inside your business, and the fact that the government wants you kind of to, nip it in the bud, right? So don't know if you heard, but last week or was the week before last, the FCC, the Federal Communications Committee, I think that's what it stands for, or commission. That's what it is. Commission. Sorry. Dip their toes a little bit further into cybersecurity. And the big area of concern for us is going to be firewalls. What used to be best practices is now going to become expected control. So again, regulation and control, they kind of walk hand in hand. And it's very similar to the ruling, or the reasons are kind of similar to the rulings about why they banned, certain drones from being sold in the U.S. So now they're looking to ban certain firewalls to be banned from the United States to be sold, not to be used. If you still have equipment, of course you do. You do not have to rip and replace. However, when you go to replace, your options could be more limited in the future, right? Because of this. Pardon me. Nose thing. Anyhow, so you can tell it's live, right? So there's no cuts. And you get to see me in my ugliest form, whatever you want to call it, which insert joke here. It's no longer safe to say that you have a firewall. It's about, is it configured properly? Is it being monitored? Are the logs being reviewed? And is it being updated and maintained with the latest firmware? So in case you don't realize it, firewalls are basically specialized computers, just like a lot of stuff these days. They just have one very specific thing, but that means they have an operating system and they have firmware that they work on as well. And so those being written by humans, and even if they were written by AI, will have vulnerabilities, right? And so whenever vulnerabilities are found, manufacturers create fixes, updates, patches, whatever you want to call it, and you have to push them into those devices. Now, some devices will automatically go get updates. You still need to check that they're doing it, because it doesn't always work. So just FYI. It normally works like 95, 99% of the time it works, but you still have to check it, right? And so, where was I going with this? Oh, yes. So there's certain structures that they're talking about for consumer firewalls. They did use the term consumer, but didn't define it. So common manufacturers that you might be aware of are going to be, like TP-Link and maybe Netgear, because you'll see a lot of those in like your Best Buys, etc. Could affect Unifying Ubiquity, just because they're not marketed specifically at enterprise, and they've got some enterprise labeled devices, but not necessarily the same thing. So, and in case you don't know or don't remember or don't care, pay attention for a second. Firewall is what sits between the internet and your business network, right? It's what keeps the bad guys out and lets the good guy, or keeps the bad guys from coming in and lets the good guys out to do their work. So your employees to do what they need to do. And it just basically makes it harder for nefarious people to try to attack your computers because they are behind a firewall and they share a common exit, right? So everybody in your company at the office does not have their own internet, probably. Like I'm 99.9999999% sure they do not have their own internet per person. That being said, let's see, where did I get off track? So again, that's what a firewall is. These are the devices we're talking about, edge devices. So it doesn't matter if it's a wireless, firewall or a wired firewall or both. The point being is that if it's manufactured overseas, it is subject to this ruling. If it is a foreign company manufactured overseas, it's really subject to this ruling. So like TP-Link's a Chinese company and they're manufactured in China, so they're probably going to have problems more than other manufacturers. Unify, who we like, is a US-based company, but they manufacture a lot of their stuff overseas. So they may have to get an exception from FCC, right? But again, keep in mind, rule does not say you have to rip everything out. But at the same time, set it and forget it is no longer an option, right? Set it and forget it is dead, unless, of course, you have a run, put, pill, rotisserie, in which case I guess you could still set it and forget it. But for firewalls, not going to happen anymore. So going forward, we have to start asking some harder questions about the equipment that we are putting into our environment. There's a lot of low-cost devices out there, consumer grade or prosumer grade stuff, that were never really designed for this level of security. Whether it's something like TP-Link, which I've mentioned, or platforms like Ubiquiti's Unify, which again I've mentioned and we like. The question is no longer does it work. The question is, can it be secured, monitored, validated in a way that would hold up under audit or worse, a breach, right? So now we do like Unify. We've been pushing it out. Their firewalls weren't always the best. And as from a security standpoint, definitely weren't the best. They've improved that every year. They've gotten to the point now where we're comfortable putting them in any non-regulated businesses that we work with. And then they've actually added a cybersecure add-on that's like $100 a year. That's based from Proofpoint, which is a cybersecurity company that they tag into the firewalls. So bonus, right? But again, if you're highly regulated, you're probably not working with that gear anyway. If you are highly regulated and you're working with that gear, prepare to be told that you're going to have to rip it out because it's not going to float. So, but talk to your IT professional before you go out and start ripping things out, please. So, because regulators and insurance companies aren't going to care about brand you bought, they're going to care about was it properly managed, maintained, and monitored. So, cheap hardware with no oversight is about to become really expensive. And so we'll see if the cyber liability insurance folks jump on the bandwagon as well and require you to have something that is officially supported. Most policies ask you if you have a firewall. They expect you to have a firewall and not just the one that came from Spectrum, Cox, AT&T, whoever, Xfinity. I'm just randomly naming off providers. No affinity for any of them. That you're not just using their standard stock. What they provided, that you got something additional above and beyond that. So they might actually start questioning even further that you have an FCC compliant firewall now. If you have cyber liability insurance, and please, if you have cyber liability insurance and you get your form every year, do not do what we used to call in the military pencil whip it. So that means, taking a pen or pencil and just checking it off. That's a pencil whip, in case I was told people didn't understand what that meant. So there's some military education for you. Consult your IT consultant. Make sure that you're answering correctly. Answering falsely on one of those forms could result in you being denied coverage if you have a have an event that needs coverage because you lied, not intentionally necessarily, but you lied, so they can decline. My opinion on this is, of course, that insurance companies, their business model is to collect premiums and deny coverage because that's how they make money. And we won't get into why I think that's a bad model. Anyhow, again, back to where I was at because I got sidetracked. So one of the places businesses can get this wrong is they think buying a firewall solves the problem. It doesn't. The real work's in the ongoing validation, right? So we've actually started building systems around this. We spun up a new company, Palladium Works. So PALLADIUMWRKS.com is where you can go see it. And we're focusing on these controls, right? To make sure they're not just in place, but they're continuously validated. We are starting to roll out a program called Palisade, which is a network access control for unified switches specifically at this time, that lets you monitor and control who is allowed to hop onto your network internally. So that's always great, right? And then to walk hand in hand with that, we are also working on something we're calling Specify, which is a standardization platform to help you, or if you're an IT company, review your clients' firewall configurations, again, specifically for unifies where we're starting, because that's what we do, right? Moving forward, we may add some others depending on how easy or how hard it is. But there you go. It's no longer acceptable for you to say, I've got a firewall, right? You have to prove that you got one and that it works and that it gives the data that the powers that be expect, right? So next up, hardware costs. Yeah, don't know if you've gone out to buy a new computer or a new server, especially a new server. Yeah, they're up 50 to 100% depending on where you're getting from this time last year. Yeah, and lead times are getting unpredictable. So I just priced out a workstation for a client today. It was 60% higher than I expected it to be. Normally we would have sold something like what they're asking for just under $1,000. It is now 1,600. So yeah, and that's probably up in the past 6 months, not just 12 months. But there you go. Oh, and the lead time for it is at least 2 weeks, where it used to be we'd order it, it would ship tomorrow or the day after, and then we would get it within 5 days or so between the time we ordered it and the shipping. Right. So there are a couple main drivers here. Number one, AI is consuming a ton of the supply chain, from memory to GPUs to storage. Data centers are buying at scale that dwarfs small and medium-sized businesses, without a doubt. Last month or this past month, Apple agreed to pay Samsung twice what it paid last time for memory in chips. Yeah. There's a problem with this because we have a manufacturing concentration. A huge portion of advanced chip manufacturing is run through companies like TSMC out of Taiwan. It creates risks that can drive disruption, costs, and availability issues. Quite honestly, I cannot, for the life of me, imagine why the U.S. government years ago did not mandate that there had to be chip manufacturing inside of the United States. Right. Not that Taiwan is an enemy of us or, a bad partner. It's just between storms and, the looming threat of China, that could be a huge disruption for us, for our supply. Now, Intel, I do believe, sank a couple of $1 billion into a new facility, and TSMC's, dropped several $1 billion into manufacturing facilities in Arizona. What people have to keep in mind, though, is that these places, you can't build them overnight. In fact, I don't think you can build them in a year. Most of them, I think, are between time for, to start thinking about it to the time it starts producing something is somewhere between 7 and 10 years. I'm going to guess that most of that is not all construction, but there's a lot of regulation and inspections going on, which, it's the world we live in. You want to have safe facilities. So anyhow, so hardware is no longer just hardware, right? A lot of places, hardware is becoming recurring revenue, right? Subscriptions, licensing, support, it all starts getting baked in. So um, it's another reason why you've seen your IT costs go in, right? So you're paying more, and you're expected to keep the equipment longer. That can be a dangerous combination if it's not managed correctly. So yeah, you should always be talking to your IT guys to find out how old your equipment is, your network equipment, your desktops, your laptops, your servers, at least once a year, because you can plan out once a year what might need to get replaced next year, and then the next year you might buy it according to your plan. Um, I heard a quote, or reheard another quote last night, which it's one of my favorites. Men plan and God laughs, right? So there you go. And I'm not a religious person. I still find it very funny. So the big picture is you've got to connect the dots, right? So the reason you're seeing all this price increase is going to be regulation forcing higher standards, and then costs are forcing longer life cycles, and consumption by other parties, mass consumption by other parties, data centers, AI, are all working together to force all the pricing up. Which means, as a small business, you're going to start getting squeezed. You're going to want to keep your equipment probably longer, maybe longer than you want. Which, this kind of goes back to Microsoft last year in October coming down and saying that Windows 11 will not be supported on older hardware. You have to use new hardware. And I get it. It was a security thing, but it was also a massive waste of resources and electronics, right? So, yeah, there you go. Oh, in case no one's been keeping up, all these components usually have gold in them. And if you haven't checked the price of gold recently, yeah, it's up also. I like to watch Gold Rush on Discovery Channel. In this past year's season, they were talking about how gold is at record prices. Just as an aside, at $3,500 an ounce. Well, it's at $5,000 an ounce now, and we're 6 months down the road. And the previous year, they had record prices at $2,300 an ounce. So, yeah, that's another factor right there. Is all this gold. So, yeah. To quote one of my favorite movies, Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket, it's a big shit sandwich, and we're all going to have to take a bite. Lovely. Yes. Right. So, and here's, one of the last parts, again, AI is part of what's hitting this. Regulators are hitting tightening controls. Businesses are losing control internally through AI. So, yay. Employees are using tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Manus. Started using Manus. It's actually not bad. Give it a whirl if you've not tried it before. They're uploading data, asking questions, automating tasks. But in many cases, there's no policy. Had a client today, for example, call us because they couldn't install Claude desktop. Yeah, so for our higher end clients with full cyber stack, we definitely limit what they're allowed to put on their computers. We discuss it with management. People can't just install things willy-nilly, right? It's a security thing. And so then we had to discuss with them about why there could be problems with installing Claude AI desktop or any other AI, and that they should be adhering to their AI acceptable use policy. And they asked us, what acceptable use policy? Can you send us a copy so we're not violating it? We've never provided them with AI acceptable use policy. We have offered all our clients an AI acceptable use policy template, very important template. And so with all policies like you get from IT companies or IT provider, they should provide you a template. They should work with you to fill it out specifically for your company and your needs. Only you can best define what this are going to be. And your IT people, your IT consultants, your AI consultants, probably more your IT consultants and security consultants, will work with you to form what your policies should be and help you put guardrails up and tell you why you need to have guardrails, right? You just don't want to start baking things in or using things willy-nilly with no plan, no structure, and no policies, right? Now, certain things you can't stop, right? Adobe has put AI into their software, right? I can't stop that. QuickBooks Online now has AI in their financials. I think you have to pay for it. It's not included, but can't stop that. Canva, um, not really AI heavy when it first launched, but very AI heavy now. I think they might have launched it with the concept of having AI at some point in time. So you need to have a policy, right? Without policy, there's no governance. With no governance, there's no visibility. It's just chaos. It's madness. We don't want madness. We want control, kind of. The illusion of control. Better. So while you're locking down your network, remember firewalls, your data is walking out the door, right? Because your employees are just uploading it willy nilly to anywhere, just willy and nilly. There you go. So think about that for just a minute. To wrap this all up, I want to talk about what you should be doing right now. So, with all the information I just fed to you, because we're running a little bit long and I'm a little bit chatty and I get tangential way too much, but it means I'm getting more comfortable in my skin. Need to treat your firewall as a managed system, not a one-time install. Set it and forget it. No more Ron Popeil. I love Ron Popeil. Think hardware life cycles, or rethink your hardware life cycles. If you haven't started thinking about your hardware life cycles, you want to plan it, budget it, and extend it safely, if at all possible, especially nowadays. We're expecting another 2 years of this. If everything were to stay the same, we're expecting at least 2 years, more years of this constraint of materials because of AI data center build outs. Now, AI could implode, explode, whichever, and this will go away. I'm not really hoping for that. I'm just saying it's one of the options. Like 50-50, I think. But otherwise, you got to plan on what you're replacing, right? Get control of your AI usage or your company's AI usage. Define what tools are allowed. Define what data can be used, and define who owns it, who's responsible. So there you go. All right. I want to thank you for sticking with me. I've gone a little bit longer than normal. I actually went 22 minutes, 23 minutes. I've been getting out here usually within 15 minutes. Closing. This is the shift we're in right now, right? Security is no longer something you're going to be able to install. It's something that you have to continuously improve. That's just the way it is. And yeah, there's always going to be people who get away with it, right? Statistically, your chances of getting hacked probably less than 1 in 1,000, right? It's just, I mean, technically hacked. When I say hacked, I mean like hacked and having repercussions. You're probably 50% of all small businesses have been hacked in some way, shape, form, or fashion, whether that be a password compromise or an email compromise, that type of thing. But something that actually costs you money, probably less than 1%. The question is, can you afford that 1% to be that 1%? And the answer is usually no. I'm trying to think. There was something that had a failure rate of 20% that people were just taking and living with, and I can't remember what it was, but it was something that was important. But they pointed out that would you get on an airplane with an 18.5% chance that it was going to go down? No, nobody would. But people were accepting this other risk. At any rate, so it's that whole concept of how much risk is acceptable for you. You need to think about that for you, for your company. So businesses that are going to win over the next few years won't be the ones with the most technology. They're going to be the ones that actually control it and utilize it. No chaos, right? Control, right? Or controlled chaos. With a plan, with policies in place, with a vision. So these are the things you need to start thinking about if you're a small business owner. With that being said, aim higher, work smarter, and cybersecurity starts with you. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. If you are the type to celebrate Easter and your company's letting you off for Friday, for Good Friday, enjoy your shortened week and extended weekend. In the meantime, I will talk to you next Tuesday. Ciao.